During our sophomore year of college, I met Alicia, and we instantly clicked. Her luxurious auburn hair, piercing blue eyes, stunning face, and long, slender legs made her look perfect to me. But it was her vibrant personality that truly drew me in. She was smart, lively, and incredibly fun to be around. We could talk about anything for hours. Before long, Alicia and I were inseparable, and after just 3 months of dating, she gave me her innocence in the back seat of my car parked behind the town's baseball diamond. Up to that point, it was the most incredible moment of my life. From then on, I was convinced we were meant to be together forever, or so I thought for the next 10 years. I go by Jamie, short for James Turner, and I hail from a decently sized town in the Midwest. I'm 6 feet tall, weigh 187 pounds, and with my brown eyes and sandy hair, some consider me reasonably attractive. I run my own small contracting company with a team of 5 employees, focusing on interior upgrades for clients who can afford our services. Alicia is a music teacher at the local high school, and together we had a comfortable life in our early 30s, eagerly planning to start a family soon. For the first decade of our marriage, I believed we were blissfully happy. We weren't intimate every day, but about 3 times a week, our lovemaking was always tender and passionate. Every night we cuddled, and every morning I woke up feeling blessed to have Alicia as my wife. I would have given my life for her without hesitation, although now I realize I should have spoken in the past tense. Out of nowhere, something hit me hard, something so unexpected and emotionally devastating that even now, I can't say I've fully come to terms with it. As a contractor in the Midwest, our work peaks during the summer and autumn. People don't want their homes disrupted in the freezing winter with snow piling up. This meant Alicia and I usually took vacations around Christmas, New Year's, or during spring break. In the summer, while I was swamped with work, Alicia would visit her parents, shop with her sisters, or take summer classes to maintain her teaching credentials. Our favorite winter escape was to a warm, sunny destination, and that particular winter, we chose an all-inclusive resort in the Bahamas. It was supposed to be 2 weeks of paradise, a chance to reconnect. How wrong I was. Before we boarded the plane in Minneapolis, I had no idea there was anything wrong with our marriage. If someone had suggested otherwise, I would have laughed in their face. In my eyes, Alicia and I were the perfect couple, deeply in love and inseparable. Our bond felt unbreakable. I never imagined there could be dark undercurrents. The first hint that something was amiss came at the security check-in at Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport. The line was long, filled with people desperate to escape the bitter cold for tropical warmth. While waiting to pass through security, I noticed a man in the adjacent line glancing at Alicia. Now, Alicia often caught the eye of men, but this felt different. He seemed to be trying to get her attention. I pretended to check my boarding pass while watching him closely. His glances were sneaky, and then I saw Alicia glance back at him, making a subtle gesture that seemed to say, "Not now." He smiled and nodded, and my heart sank. They knew each other. How well, I couldn't tell, but this realization set off alarm bells. As we moved through security, I kept a close eye on them, but there were no further interactions. I grew silent, hoping Alicia wouldn't notice, but she seemed lost in her own thoughts. I prayed the man wasn't on our flight, but when we boarded and took our seats, I saw I was wrong. He was in an aisle seat about 15 rows ahead. Oddly, Alicia chose the aisle seat in our row. She always preferred the window seat. When I asked why, since I had booked the window seat for her, she brushed me off, saying she wasn't feeling well and didn't want to disturb anyone if she needed the restroom. I convinced the person in the aisle seat to switch with her, explaining my wife's supposed stomach issues, and they agreed without hesitation. Normally, I can sleep easily on flights, especially long ones like this. But with my anxiety running high, sleep was impossible, even though I pretended to doze off. We stowed our carry-on bags in the overhead bin, and Alicia placed her purse under the seat in front of her. Once the plane took off, I pulled my twin's baseball cap down over my forehead and pretended to sleep, my mind racing with doubts and fears. I positioned myself to keep an eye on Alicia without being obvious. About 15 minutes later, she glanced down at me, seemingly convinced I was asleep, and quietly got up to head towards the restrooms. I adjusted my seat to get a clear view of the aisle and saw her passing by the man's seat. She reached out as if to steady herself and lightly touched his shoulder. This was more than a random encounter. There was definitely something between them. They didn't exchange looks, and Alicia continued to the restroom. When she emerged a bit later, she glanced directly at him. He stood up and walked toward her. Instead of stepping aside for each other, they paused in the aisle. He put his hand on her waist, and she touched his chest briefly. They both smiled warmly. His hand slid down to her buttocks, making her smile again. That moment shattered my illusions. It was clear they were more than acquaintances. My heart sank with the realization that my marriage was in serious trouble. The pain and confusion were overwhelming. I turned away from Alicia as she sat down and fastened her seatbelt. How could she betray us like this? How long had it been going on? Who was this man and how deep was their relationship? The rest of the flight, I wrestled with these questions, dreading the possibility that he might be on our flight to Nassau. Deep down, I knew he would be. Unfortunately, my fears were confirmed. As soon as Alicia and I boarded the plane, I saw him 5 rows behind us, engrossed in the in-flight magazine, seemingly oblivious to our presence. Alicia, now apparently feeling better, took her usual window seat. The flight to Nassau was uneventful, and after landing, we collected our luggage, rented a car, and headed to the resort. Alicia was busy texting while I drove, so I asked, "Who are you messaging?" "Oh, just my mom and sisters, letting them know we arrived," she replied casually. Yeah, right, I thought, but I'd really like to see it for myself. It's strange how suspicions grow and fester. Our room was breathtaking, with a balcony offering an ocean view and a glimpse of one of the pools. As we unpacked, I knew I needed to take action to win back my wife. I walked up to Alicia, hugged her from behind, and kissed her neck. "Do you know how much I love you?" Alicia turned and gave me a quick peck on the lips. "I love you too, baby," she said, but her eyes had a distant look, as if she wasn't entirely present with me. It sent a chill down my spine. I kissed her again. "You know I'd never do anything to hurt you, right, Alicia?" "I know that, Jamie," she flinched slightly. "And I know you'd never do anything to hurt me or our marriage," I said. She flinched, tears welling up in her eyes. "Of course, Jamie, you know I wouldn't," she said, avoiding my gaze and staring at the floor. That's when I realized I might be losing her. If she hadn't already cheated on me, it seemed inevitable. I let go of her and rushed to the bathroom, trying to hold back tears. Inside, I battled with my thoughts. How did this happen? What did I do to push her away? Why didn't I see the signs? But the most pressing question was, can I save us, or is it already too late? After splashing water on my face, I walked out of the bathroom. Alicia was standing there with an odd expression. "Oh my God, Jamie, I just got my period and I didn't bring any tampons." "What?" I asked, bewildered. "My period, Jamie, it just started." "But you had it a week ago. How could it start again?" "I don't know, but it happens sometimes. Maybe the excitement of the vacation triggered it. I need to go to the gift shop and get some tampons," she said, hurriedly leaving and closing the door behind her. My first thought was maybe it's a good thing. It might slow down her romance with her boyfriend, whoever he is. But then I realized, wait, that doesn't make sense. This has never happened before. She's always been regular with her periods thanks to the pill. Why would she lie about this? Unless she thought having her period would stop me from wanting intimacy, so she could focus all her attention on her new man. That must be it. And if it is, then she's not the woman I married. No one could be that sneaky and cruel. She must really despise me to let me plan and pay for this trip, just so she could shut me out and give everything to a man I've never even met. I felt completely lost, like I was going crazy. Who was this woman I'd loved for over 10 years? Looking around the room, I noticed she'd left her phone next to the TV. I turned it on, unsure if she had changed the passcode, but she hadn't. Another mistake on her part. I checked her messages and read the latest ones from someone named Michael Harris. I scrolled back to the beginning of their conversation, which had started when we were driving to the resort. Michael: "Hey baby, OMG, you look amazing. Can't wait to be with you." Alicia: "You naughty boy. You almost got us caught by Jamie at the airport." Michael: "Couldn't resist. Almost kissed you on the plane when we were in the aisle." Alicia: "Jamie was fast asleep, so you could have, but it might have looked bad to others." As soon as we reached our room at the resort, Alicia's phone buzzed again. It was Michael, asking if she was in the lobby yet. She replied quickly, "I'm in my room. Jamie's in the bathroom acting strange." Michael's response was immediate and dismissive. "Who cares? When's he leaving so I can have you all to myself?" I couldn't believe what I was reading. Alicia responded firmly, I've told you from the start, Mike, that I can't and won't do that. Jamie is a wonderful husband who loves me, takes care of me, and gives me a life you never could. Michael, undeterred, shot back with something vulgar about his manhood, claiming it was bigger and better, and that he satisfied her more than I ever could. Alicia's words cut deep. Oh yes, no one satisfies me like you do, baby. You take me to places Jamie has never even imagined. I felt a sharp pain in my chest, realizing just how deeply she had betrayed me. She went on, Jamie and I are planning to start our family, so these next 2 weeks are just for you, baby. I told Jamie I'd stop taking my birth control pills when we get home, but I actually stopped almost 3 weeks ago. Now you have the chance to impregnate me. If you conceive a child with me in the next 2 weeks, we'll have a baby that Jamie will raise, thinking it's his. Michael's reply was sickening. You're so naughty, but I love it. I'll make a baby in that sweet belly of yours. Alicia's response was even worse. God, you're turning me on. I can't wait to feel you inside me. Michael, always the pragmatist, questioned, what about Jamie, though? How do you know he won't fertilize you in the next 2 weeks? Alicia reassured him with a laugh. Because he won't get the chance, silly. I'll tell him my period started again and will continue throughout our entire vacation, LOL. Michael, ever skeptical, asked, are you sure he'll believe it? Alicia, with the confidence of a master manipulator, replied, absolutely. He loves me and trusts me completely. Plus, I'll make it up to him when we get back home. Michael's response was a dagger to my heart. Damn, he's so stupid. What a loser. Alicia snapped back, defending me half-heartedly. Quit calling him that, or you'll lose access to me for good. Michael's arrogance shone through as he countered, we both know you won't let that happen. You need me too much. Alicia conceded, that's true, but I still don't appreciate you talking about Jamie like that. He's a good guy. Michael eventually gave in. All right, meet me in the lobby. I need to kiss your lips, both sets, but I'll settle for the ones on your face for now, he messaged. I stood there, frozen, my mind racing with thoughts of how I could use these damning messages as leverage in the divorce. At first, I toyed with the idea of swapping her phone with mine, but then I thought, to hell with her. My phone has all my personal data. She's the one who dug this hole. Let her find a way out of it. So, I kept both phones, knowing she'd notice hers was missing soon enough. But I'd be long gone by then. A wave of nausea washed over me, nearly making me gag. I walked to the window, staring blankly at the beautiful Caribbean view. Just 8 hours ago, I was the happiest man alive, looking forward to 2 blissful weeks in paradise with the woman I thought I knew. My wife, my partner in life. Now, my world had been obliterated. I had never felt so alone, so betrayed, so furious. I wanted to destroy them both for making a fool out of me. Thankfully, the rational part of my mind took over. Divorce was unavoidable. There was no way I could stay married to this deceitful woman who used to be my loving wife. But divorce wasn't enough. I needed revenge. As I continued to stare out the window, I happened to look down at the pool. There they were, entwined in each other's arms, locked in a passionate kiss. Michael's hands roamed over Alicia's body, making me want to vomit. Instead, I took a deep breath and grabbed the video camera I had brought for our vacation, now with a far different purpose in mind. Alicia must have overlooked the fact that our room had a perfect view of the pool. The camera had a good zoom, allowing me to capture detailed footage of their intimate betrayal. It sickened me to watch, but I knew this could be my weapon. I needed a plan, but my stomach churned, and my mind was a whirlwind. Then it struck me. How did they plan to spend time alone with me around? They had to have a strategy to keep me occupied. As I thought it over, a simple idea came to me. Alicia wanted 2 weeks with Michael to conceive a baby, and I wanted to ruin their plans. Why wait? Why not act now? First, I needed to figure out how they intended to keep me out of the way. I kept recording as I watched them kiss one last time before Alicia hurried off. She'd be back any minute, and I needed to get myself together. I headed to the bathroom and turned on the shower to calm down. If she asked, I'd say it helped me relax after the flight and get rid of the travel grime. 5 minutes later, I heard the door open and close. I'm back, she called out. I got us some water and my tampons. Great, I'll be out in a minute. Why did she get water when the resort already provided it? Then it hit me. She planned to slip something into my drink. My mind raced. If I refused the water, she'd know something was up. If I drank it, they'd have their time together while I was out cold. What was my play? I shut off the shower, drying off slowly as my thoughts swirled. Then Alicia knocked on the door. "You okay in there?" "You've been in for a while," she said, sounding worried. I couldn't tell if she was concerned for me or just eager to meet Michael. My anger flared, but I stayed calm. Opening the door, I saw her by the bed, sipping from a water bottle. She handed me another one, already opened. "Here, we need to stay hydrated in this climate," she said, not meeting my eyes. I took the bottle and pretended to take a big drink before heading back to the bathroom. Quietly, I spit the water into the sink and emptied the bottle. I grabbed a fresh one from the counter and filled it. Back in the room, Alicia was busy unpacking, oblivious to my actions. I continued to sip my water and noticed a red dress laid out. "Is that for dinner?" "Seems a shame if we don't go," I hinted, knowing it was meant for him, not me. "I brought it, so I might as well wear it," she replied, smiling. "Aren't you tired from traveling?" Bingo. She did slip pills into my water, but what was my next move? I needed more proof. To sell my ruse, I pretended to be drowsy, taking another sip even though it felt like my heart was racing from a shot of adrenaline. "Now that you mention it, I could use some rest. What time's dinner?" I asked, trying to sound fatigued. "Not for a couple of hours. Why don't you lie down? I'll wake you when it's time," she suggested, her voice laced with feigned concern. I let out a fake yawn. "All right, honey, I'll take a nap. Just don't let me oversleep. I want to spend every moment with you. Love you so much." I watched her reaction carefully, noting the slight flicker of discomfort in her eyes. "I love you too," she replied, but her words felt hollow. I lay down, feigning sleep until my breathing slowed and became rhythmic. Soon I heard her whispering into the phone. "It worked. He's out. How long will he stay asleep?" "We've got the whole night," she giggled, her voice dripping with excitement. I felt my stomach churn, but I remained motionless, keeping up the pretense of sleep. "I'll meet you at the bar in an hour. Need to freshen up first," she laughed. "You're so bad. Can't wait, lover. Bye." She hung up and I watched her with barely open eyes as she chose her lingerie, a thong and push-up bra. My fury burned, but I stayed still. She headed into the bathroom and started the shower. This was my chance. I got up quietly and searched her purse, finding a bottle of unmarked capsules. Carefully, I took 5 pills, wrapped them in a tissue, and hid them in my pocket. I put the bottle back and returned to bed just as she finished her shower. She took another 45 minutes to get ready, and as soon as she left, I sprang into action. I needed to get more evidence, ruin their trip, and start the divorce proceedings early. I grabbed my camera and headed to the bar. The resort wasn't large, just 2 bars by the ocean. One was the bigger with a dance floor. I found a good spot behind some palm trees where I could see without being seen. My camera's zoom feature was perfect for this. It wasn't too busy, which made it easy to spot them. She wore that red dress I once loved, but now it only fueled my anger. He had his hands all over her, and I had to fight the urge to confront him. I reminded myself I was there for evidence, not to land in jail. I started recording as they acted like lovers on a Caribbean getaway. They laughed, touched, and kissed, just like Alicia and I used to. After about an hour, a DJ started playing music, and they danced. Watching them made me nauseous, and I almost left. Then I saw them leave the dance floor quickly, so I followed, keeping my distance. They stopped to kiss and touch as I recorded. They reached his room at the back of the resort, a smaller ground floor unit with no ocean view. I thought, he must be on a budget. They went inside and I moved closer to hear and record everything. I captured every moment as they undressed and got intimate. He was well endowed, but that didn't excuse her betrayal or the fact that she was planning to get pregnant with his child. I recorded their lovemaking, feeling like it took forever. This guy wasn't just well endowed, he had incredible stamina too. It was nearly midnight, and I thought she'd return to our room soon, but then I overheard their conversation. "Are those pills safe? I don't want him passing out or having a seizure," she asked, sounding concerned. How touching. "Don't worry, babe. He'll be out for at least 6 more hours. He might wake up with a headache, but that's it. You only used 1 pill, right?" "Yeah, just 1. Why? What would happen with 2? The jerk laughed. "Nah, 2 would knock him out for 12 hours or more. Just stick to 1 before bedtime, and we can spend every night together. I want you pregnant before we leave. Here's an extra key card to my room. If you can sneak away during the day, call me. and we'll meet here." Their laughter filled me with rage, making me want to vomit. Having seen and heard enough, I quietly left and returned to my room. Now, I needed a plan to destroy them both and make them feel the pain they caused me. It was clear she wanted to spend every night with him, so I had to change that. Back in my room, I reviewed the recordings. As painful as it was to watch, I began forming a plan. First, I needed to separate them so I could deal with Loverboy. Maybe I'd slip something into his drink like Alicia did to me and then beat him up while he was out cold. He wouldn't be able to identify me, so I'd get away with it. But how could I ensure they'd be apart? Then it hit me. I'd treat Alicia to a day at the spa. The resort had a spa with massages, facials, and makeup services. I planned to buy her a package deal as a gift to show my love. If she refused, I'd guilt-trip her into accepting, just like she had done to me before. She wouldn't have a choice but to accept, and it would keep her busy for a few hours while I took care of business with her lover. I changed into my shorts and lay awake in bed, seething with thoughts of them together and the beating I'd give him. Around 5 a.m., Alicia returned to the room. I stayed still, pretending to be asleep while she crawled into bed beside me. At 7 a.m., I pretended to wake up. Alicia was still asleep, so I showered quickly and headed to the spa. It opened early and I chose a 3-hour package. The earliest booking was at 2 p.m., so I took it to surprise my wife. Afterward, I explored the grounds and returned to the room around 9 a.m. Alicia was still asleep, so I checked her phone. There was a recent message from Michael. "You were great last night. Any chance you can sneak away from Jamie for some afternoon fun?" I controlled my rage and kissed Alicia's forehead as she started to stir. "Morning. Sorry about yesterday, falling asleep and messing up our dinner plans, but I have a surprise for you." She smiled and yawned. "What's the surprise?" "I booked you a spa day to make up for last night and to show you how much I care." Even in her sleepy state, I noticed a slight flinch and uncertainty in her eyes. It made me realize she might be questioning her feelings for me. I looked at her and asked, "Is everything okay? Do you like the gift?" "Yes, I do love it. I just wish you had asked me first," she said with a weak smile. "If I had asked, it wouldn't have been a surprise." "Don't worry. You don't have to rush. Your appointment is at 2 p.m., so we have time to be together," I said, watching her reaction closely. She nodded. "You're thoughtful. Thank you," she replied, kissing my cheek. Her breath had a strange, almost fishy smell. "Go freshen up and we'll grab some breakfast," I added, getting up from the bed. As she headed to the bathroom with her purse, I kept an eye on her, knowing she was up to something but not wanting to raise suspicion. I glanced out the window and spotted Michael by the pool, casually chatting with a couple of women and checking his phone. He seemed completely unbothered by my surprise spa gift. It occurred to me that he might be making backup plans in case Alicia couldn't meet him later, which could be useful information. About an hour later, Alicia and I were at the breakfast buffet. While I piled food onto my plate, she only grabbed some fruit and coffee. "Not hungry, babe? Is it because of your period?" I asked, feigning concern. "Oh yeah, that must be it. I'm not feeling much like eating," she replied, distracted. I couldn't help but wonder what Michael had texted her to make her so preoccupied. It didn't matter, though. My plan was unfolding just fine. After breakfast, we took a walk on the beach. I had my camera with me and filmed the beach, the palm trees, and Alicia. She smiled for the camera, but I could see the guilt and uncertainty in her eyes. "What's wrong, babe? Are you okay?" I asked, pretending to be concerned. "I'm fine, just a bit tired. Do you mind if I go back to the room for a nap before my spa appointment?" she said, clearly wanting to get away. "Sure, no problem. I know it must be tough being on vacation and having your period. You go rest and I'll see you after your spa treatment," I said, trying to sound understanding. She turned and walked back to the resort without another word. I watched her go, feeling a mix of anger and satisfaction. Now it was time to find Michael and make him pay. As I wandered along the beach, lost in thought, I saw two couples approaching. The women were the same ones I had seen with Michael earlier, now accompanied by two large guys who looked like they could play for the NFL. As they got closer, I overheard their conversation. "Come on, babe. Don't be like that. You knew Dave and I wanted to go deep-sea fishing, and they had 2 spots open. We'll be back before dinner," one of the guys said. "Sure. You guys always do whatever you want while we're stuck here at the hotel," one of the women replied, clearly annoyed. Babe, there's plenty for you to do here. You could go shopping in town, relax by the pool, or even use the gym, he suggested, trying to appease her. Are you saying I'm fat? You're one to talk, she snapped back. No, babe, that's not what I meant. I just meant you could find plenty of things to do here, he said, trying to backtrack. It was a lost cause as they walked past me, heading back to the resort, with him still pleading his case. After wandering on the beach for a while, I decided to check on Michael. I was worried Alicia might have skipped her spa appointment to be with him. I roamed around the resort until I found myself outside Michael's room. I could hear voices inside, but not Alicia's. Carefully, I readied my camera and moved closer to the window. It was risky during the day, but I needed the footage. I set the camera on the window ledge, aiming it into the room, and let it record on its own. Then I found a hidden spot where I could watch the door. Time dragged on, but my patience was rewarded. The two women from earlier walked out of Michael's room, giggling. Once they were gone, I retrieved the camera and headed back to my room. Alicia wouldn't be back from the spa for a while, so I had time to review the recordings. Back in the room, I downloaded the videos to my laptop. Most of it was footage of Alicia and Michael, but the latest video was shocking. The two women had a threesome with Michael. It was like watching a cheap porn movie. He'd be with one while the other watched and played with herself, then they'd switch. They even joked about how much bigger he was than their boyfriends. A new idea formed in my mind. If I timed it right, I could be back home while Alicia was left to figure out what happened. I assumed she'd try to slip pills into my drink again tonight, so I'd play along and pretend to be out cold. Then, if I was lucky, she'd meet Michael at the bar for drinks before going back to his room. If I could slip one of those pills into each of their drinks near the end of their night, they'd be out cold by the time they got to his room. Timing had to be perfect, but things rarely go as planned. My next step was to make a DVD copy of Michael's latest escapades. I couldn't help feeling a twinge of jealousy that he could persuade two attractive women to join him. I made 2 copies of his afternoon activities on DVDs and then backed up everything I had recorded on another DVD for insurance. I went down to the front desk and mailed the backup disc to my brother Robert, with a note asking him not to play it or let anyone know he had it. It was just in case my plan backfired, or Alicia and Michael tried to harm me. If something happened to me, at least the disc I sent to Robert would reveal the truth. Checking the time, I saw Alicia should be finishing up at the spa soon. I decided to take a quick walk around the resort to find out which rooms the two women and their boyfriends were staying in. Their boyfriends would likely be very interested in what their girlfriends had been up to. I spotted the two women by the pool area, each with their towels, and began following them, planning my next move. I watched the two women head back to their rooms, and just as I suspected, they entered rooms right next to each other. That part of the plan was set. Now, if Alicia and Michael stuck to their usual routine, I could shatter their idyllic vacation by tomorrow morning. Back in my room, I called the airline to book the earliest flight out the next day. The soonest I could get was a 10 a.m. flight, later than I had hoped, but I reserved it anyway. Then, I informed the front desk that my wife and I had a family emergency and needed to leave the next morning. They expressed their sympathies, and I thanked them before heading back to my room, fully committed to my scheme. If things didn't go perfectly, I'd still catch the flight and beat Alicia home. Either way, I'd make sure to throw a wrench in her plans before she returned. But if everything went according to plan, she'd be stranded here while I turned her world upside down. The plan was methodical. First, let Alicia think she had slipped pills in my drink and pretend to pass out, giving her and Michael their alone time. Second, head to the bar and wait for the right moment to spike their drinks with the same pills she used on me. If timed right, they'd pass out either just before reaching his room or shortly after. Third, once they were out, move Alicia back to our room and clean out everything from Michael's belongings. Wallet, cash, passport, everything. Fourth, slip the DVDs under the doors of the two women Michael had the threesome with, hoping their boyfriends would find and watch them. They'd be livid about their girlfriend's activities. Finally, do the same to Alicia, taking everything except her clothes and purse, leaving a note in her empty wallet so she knew who was behind it. With everything set, I just had to wait for the plan to unfold. Alicia returned at 5:30 p.m., looking more relaxed and radiant than ever. It hurt to think our marriage was over. Jamie, thank you so much for the spa day. It was amazing. I feel like a whole new woman, she said, glowing. I'm glad you liked it. When I first mentioned it, you didn't seem too excited, but I'm happy you enjoyed it. I just wanted to show you how much I care, I replied, noting the flinch and tears in her eyes. Thank you again. I really loved it, and I love you, she said, with more conviction. Anytime, babe. We have dinner reservations for 7 p.m. How about we rest a bit and then get ready? She nodded and headed to the bathroom with her purse. A few minutes later, she came back with 2 water bottles, handing one to me. Drink up. I plan on hitting the dance floor tonight, so you better start hydrating, she said, winking. All right. Just let me hit the bathroom first, I chuckled. Inside, I followed the same routine, emptying the bottle and refilling it with tap water. I flushed the toilet for effect, then returned to the bedroom. I sipped my water and after 15 minutes, started my sleepy act. Soon I was pretending to be asleep, watching Alicia prepare for what she thought would be a perfect night with Michael. She showered, and I quickly grabbed her phone to check her messages. Alicia, can't slip away this afternoon. Jamie bought me a spa package. Couldn't say no. Michael, no problem, babe. Got other plans for now. Still on for tonight? Alicia, absolutely. Need that big hard Johnson and its seed for our baby. Michael, can't wait to be between your legs and hear you scream my name. Reading that filth, my rage was lessened by knowing the end was near. I just needed to follow them to the bar, watch them for a bit, then spike their drinks. I rummaged through her purse and found the key card to Michael's room. Slipping it into my pocket, I put everything back. Alicia took longer to get ready, then did something unexpected. She sat beside me and gently touched my cheek. Baby, after this week, I'll be all yours. I swear it. I just needed to get this out of my system before we start a family. I wish I could have told you and that you'd understand, but I had to do this. These next few days are for me. I wish I could have been honest, but I need you more than you know. I love you so much, but I really needed this, she whispered, kissing my cheek. I do love you, Jamie. I almost thought she had figured out I wasn't asleep, but she was just trying to ease her guilty conscience. It was too late for that. Once she left the room, I got up, dressed, and trailed not far behind her. They went to the same bar, which was even more crowded than the night before. I spotted the 2 women and their boyfriends from earlier. If my plan worked, they wouldn't be together by morning. I settled into the same spot as before, setting up my camera to capture everything. The night unfolded as expected, and soon they were seated at a table, laughing and chatting. It was nearing the time to slip pills into their drinks. I moved to the bar, making sure they didn't see me. Sitting down, I ordered a beer and kept an eye on them. Their waitress took their drink order and returned to the bar. I listened as she gave their order to the bartender. Then I flagged down another bartender and ordered the same drinks. While the first bartender prepared their drinks, I discreetly opened a capsule and mixed its contents into each drink, stirring to ensure the powder dissolved. The fizz settled, and the drinks looked normal. With a drink in each hand, I maneuvered through the bustling bar, expertly swapping the drinks with pills for the originals without the waitress noticing. The busy atmosphere concealed my actions perfectly. Returning to my spot outside, I watched and waited, hoping my timing was right. It was just after 1 a.m., so if the pills worked as planned, they'd be out cold until around 11 a.m., aligning perfectly with my strategy. All I needed now was for them to finish their drinks and head back to Michael's room before passing out. As they sat there slowly sipping their drinks, anxiety gnawed at me. What if they didn't finish their drinks? Would the pills still work effectively? My worries were cut short when Michael leaned toward Alicia, whispered something, and they both quickly finished their drinks and left the bar. Thank goodness. I hurried to keep pace with them as they rushed back to the room. Alicia was stumbling, having trouble walking, and Michael supported her with his arm around her waist. By the time they reached his room, Michael was also starting to stagger. My timing had been perfect. Now all I had to do was wait for the pills to fully take effect. As they reached his door, Alicia could barely stand, and Michael was struggling to stay upright. He fumbled with the key card, finally managing to open the door and stumble inside. The door closed behind them, so I waited a few minutes before using the key card I took from Alicia's purse to enter the room. Inside, I heard Michael's slurred voice. What's wrong with you, babe? You didn't drink that much. I knew he'd be unconscious soon. Approaching the bed, I saw Alicia lying face down, already out cold. Michael was shaking her, trying to wake her up. "Come on, babe, it's time to make a baby," he said, noticing me walking in. "Hey, who the hell are you?" he demanded, trying to stand but nearly falling over. "I'm just her husband, jerk. Now why don't you do us all a favor and pass out?" I replied. Right on cue, he slowly collapsed to the floor and lay still. Moving closer to the bed, I found his phone on the floor. Curious, I started scrolling through it, discovering hundreds of pictures. Most harmless, but some were gold. There was a folder with dozens of images of women in various stages of undress, some even doing things with his Johnson. Among them were several of Alicia. As I kept looking, I realized some of the women were teachers from the same school where Alicia worked, as well as wives of male teachers. Michael liked to mess around with other men's wives. That was about to backfire. I checked his contact list and decided to share those pictures, except for the ones of my soon-to-be ex-wife, with everyone on his list. It took a few minutes to tag and send all those pictures to his contacts, including some husbands of the wives he had photographed, along with a few videos. Michael was in for a rude awakening when he got home. I sent the pictures and videos of Alicia to her phone, then from her phone to mine for future leverage. Blackmail anyone? I turned off his phone and started gathering his stuff. Clothes, toiletries, anything he brought on the trip, and shoved them haphazardly into his suitcase. I checked his pockets and took all his cash, wallet, credit cards, driver's license, and passport. Without his passport, leaving the island would be nearly impossible for him. With his suitcase packed, I focused on Alicia, still face down on the bed. Carefully, I rolled her onto her back and carried her back to our room. After laying her on our bed, I returned to Michael's room to collect the rest of his belongings. I kept his phone, wallet, and cash as some sort of compensation. I made sure he had nothing left to take with him, even taking his shoes and tossing them in the resort's dumpster along with his suitcase, covering them with trash to hide them. Back in my room, I packed up both mine and Alicia's suitcases with the same care I did Michael's stuff. I planned to leave Alicia with just the clothes on her back, her purse, some tampons, and an empty wallet with a note from me. It was around 4 a.m. and I needed to be at the airport by 9 a.m. Since Alicia had finished her drink around 2 a.m., she'd likely be out until at least noon. I figured Michael would wake up around 10 a.m., and I'd be long gone by then. Before leaving the room, I grabbed the 2 DVDs I made earlier and slipped one under each of the doors of the rooms where the 2 women and their boyfriends were staying. Quietly and quickly, I did this, then returned to my room. Seeing Alicia peacefully sleeping on the bed filled me with a deep sense of loss and sadness. I had looked forward to starting a family with her, but her actions made forgiveness impossible. I made sure everything was packed, grabbed Alicia's suitcase, and tossed it into the same dumpster where I had thrown Michael's belongings. Back in the room, I checked Alicia's purse to ensure it was empty. No money, credit cards, or passport. I wanted Alicia to have as hard a time getting home as Michael would. Exhausted, I sank into a chair, my mind racing with thoughts of what I'd do once I got back. First on the list, drain our bank accounts and cancel all our credit cards. Then I'd pack up my belongings and get out of our house. I'd probably need to stash everything in a storage unit, but I didn't care. I just needed to escape from the house and the facade of our marriage. Before I knew it, I had dozed off. When I woke up, it was nearly 7 a.m. I forced myself up, took one last look at Alicia, then carried her out of the room. Down by the pool, I laid her on a lounge chair. I didn't want her there when the cleaning crew came by. Back in the room, I grabbed my bags and did a final check to make sure I hadn't left anything. I still had Michael's phone, which gave me an idea. I headed back to the pool, grabbed Alicia's phone, and began sending all the damning photos and videos to everyone in her contact list, sparing only her young nieces and nephews, her parents, siblings, and co-workers. They deserved to know. Then I went to the front desk and got a piece of Scotch tape. I took out her phone's battery, put a tiny piece of tape over the contacts, and put the battery back in. It would look like her battery had died, and without a charger, she'd be stuck. Around 8 a.m., I heard shouting from one of the boyfriends of the women who had been with Michael. It seemed they had found the video I left for them. "You cheat! Tell your family the wedding's off. I never want to see you again. Find your own way home," one guy yelled. The other just stood there, cold and silent, while his girlfriend pleaded, "Please, baby, don't leave me. I'm so sorry. It was a dumb mistake, and you already got even with him. You're such a slut. Go back to your new guy. He might have a bigger Johnson, but I doubt it'll be working too well from now on, he said coldly. I wondered what they had done to Michael, but I guessed I'd never know. Soon after, I heard the wail of an ambulance. The manager rushed out and led the EMTs to Michael's room. I hoped he'd be okay. As a crowd gathered, I quietly slipped away and hailed a cab to the airport. On the way, I powered on my phone and saw I had a voicemail. Checking it, I heard my brother Robert's voice. Jamie, what's going on? I got a bunch of pics and some explicit videos of Alicia. I mean, she's hot, but what's the deal? Do you know anything about this? Call me back. Waiting at the airport, I called him back and explained everything. How Alicia had been cheating with Michael, trying to get pregnant by him. At first, Robert thought I was joking, but when I told him to look closely at the videos, he was stunned. He apologized and offered his support. I thanked him, hung up, and soon found myself flying home alone. When I switched on Michael's phone after landing, I found a slew of angry voicemails and texts. Clearly, the pics and vids I sent out had hit their mark. I grabbed my bags, retrieved my car, and headed home, plotting my next move. Divorce was an option, but she'd get half, and that wasn't fair. A new plan started forming as I drove. She wrecked our marriage so I'd make her life miserable. I called my brother to help move my stuff out before Alicia got back, leaving her an empty house. My phone was flooded with messages, mostly from Alicia's family asking where she was. No text from Alicia herself meant she hadn't figured it out yet. I smirked at the thought of her discovering the mess. First, I canceled our cards and transferred our money. Then, I packed up my stuff, trashed any gifts from Alicia, and unplugged the house phone. Around 11 p.m., I saw Alicia's frantic messages. Where are you? Why did you leave me? Are you okay? Then came the realization, why did you do this? Couldn't we have talked? I ignored, knowing it would frustrate her more. The next day was a whirlwind, not knowing when Alicia would return. I had to act fast. First, I got boxes and rented a large storage unit. Then I hit the bank, drained our joint account, and moved the money to my business account. I thought about closing it and taking off, but there were loose ends to tie up first. Our house was a small starter home, 2 bedrooms, a tiny bathroom, and a kitchen, nothing special. I used to dream of fixing it up, but now I had different plans. I was going to give Alicia a homecoming she'd never forget. Later that morning, my brother Robert came over with his pickup. After loading up all my stuff, we made 3 trips to the storage unit, taking over 5 hours. By afternoon, I was officially out. I didn't tell Robert about my plans for the house or the surprise for Alicia, figuring he'd try to talk me out of it. He did ask about my future plans, though. I'm just leaving town to escape this nightmare of a marriage. I don't plan on divorcing her, but I won't be here when she returns. She can keep the house, but that's it, I said. Robert shook his head. That won't work. She'll hire a lawyer and track you down. Just divorce her and move on. Running will only make things worse. Don't let anger dictate your choices. Be responsible, get a lawyer, and split things evenly. No way, I replied. She betrayed me and tried to pin another man's child on me. She deserves nothing. I'm not giving her the satisfaction of a divorce. I'm leaving her penniless and exposing her lies, I declared firmly. Robert knew better than to argue with me once my mind was made up. He left, advising me to think carefully, but I had made my decision the moment I saw her with that man. Now, it was time to act. That night, I set to work on the house, tearing through it with a single-minded focus. I didn't know when Alicia would be back, so I had to move fast. Luckily, a massive snowstorm was forecasted, shutting down airports and giving me more time. The snow would also help cover my tracks. Ignoring the barrage of calls, especially from Alicia, I finally picked up her call, ready to gather the information I needed. She was desperate, admitting her mistakes and begging to make things right. Her tears didn't move me. I was past caring. But I played along, hinting at a slim chance for reconciliation before pulling it away. Why did you do this to us? Don't you love me? I asked, my voice calm but with a hint of sorrow. Inside I was seething, but I needed her to believe there was hope. It meant nothing, baby. Please forgive me, she sobbed. I don't know if we can fix this, I replied after a pause, keeping her on edge. We can get through this, and our love will be even stronger, she pleaded, her desperation clear. I'm not sure. When are you coming back? I asked. I'm stuck without a passport or ticket. My sister's wiring me money since my credit cards got stolen. Oh, and cancel those cards, please, she said, shifting from begging to practicality. I'll handle it, but when do you think you'll be back? I inquired. In a few days, once I get a new passport from the consulate, she answered. Let me know when you're leaving, okay? I requested. I will, Jamie. Yeah, I love you. See you when you're back, I replied, hanging up. She wouldn't be back for a few days, which was perfect. It gave me time to finalize my plans and prepare for my new life without her. The next day, Robert called to check in and invited me over for dinner. I agreed, craving a home-cooked meal after surviving on takeout for over a week. After reassuring Robert that I wouldn't do anything rash, Alicia called again. Hey, babe. Good news. I'll be getting a new passport in a couple of days. All I need now is a plane ticket home. I could be back in a few days, maybe late afternoon. Can you pick me up from the airport? I really want us to talk as soon as I'm back, she said eagerly. I don't think that's a good idea, Alicia. You should have your sister pick you up. We can talk when you get home, I replied, knowing full well I'd be long gone by then. Okay, babe. I love you. And I know we can work through this if you just give us a chance, okay, Jamie? She pleaded. Yeah, we'll talk when you're back. No promises, I lied, matching her deceitful tone. With a clear idea of when she'd return, I had time to tie up loose ends before leaving town. First, I sold my work truck and bought another one registered in a friend's name. Then, I informed my employees that I was closing the business due to personal reasons. It was abrupt, but they needed to know. Next, I reached out to an old college buddy in Colorado who had once suggested we start a business together. He was shocked by the news about Alicia, as he had known us when we were dating and thought we were perfect together. I asked if his offer was still on the table, and he welcomed me to join him. I requested to work off the books to keep Alicia from tracking me down and claiming money. With everything arranged, all that remained was for me to leave. Alicia had been calling me nonstop, apologizing and professing her love, but I was resolute. The day before her return, I packed my new truck and cleared out the house. I left early the next morning, aiming to slip out of town unnoticed. I asked my neighbor to record Alicia's arrival, promising a surprise for her without revealing the true reason. He agreed, unaware of our marital issues, and awaited my call. As I drove out of town toward my new life without Alicia, I felt a mix of liberation and anticipation. My plan was in motion, and there was no turning back. Everything was set. I had a long drive ahead to reach my friend's place down south, and by the time I arrived, Alicia would be back home. As I drove, a surprising sense of calm washed over me, a stark contrast to the rage and despair I'd felt since catching Alicia and Michael together. It felt like hitting rock bottom had given me the push I needed to start climbing back up. Around noon, Alicia called to say she'd be home the next day around 4 p.m. She asked if I could pick her up from the airport, but I told her I had errands to run and would be home later. I also instructed my neighbor to have his video camera ready for the surprise I had planned for her. The next day, I was almost at my friend's place in Colorado when Alicia called again, this time in a panic. The house, it collapsed. It must have been the snow. I barely turned the key and the roof came crashing down. Our house is gone, she screamed. Don't worry, Alicia, I've made other arrangements, I said, feigning reassurance. How can you be so calm? Our house is destroyed, she shouted, anger rising. Because it didn't just collapse from the snow. I made sure it happened. I did to our house what you did to our marriage. Good luck finding a new place to live. I'm almost at my new home, I said coldly before hanging up. A few minutes later, my phone rang again. It was my neighbor. Jamie, you won't believe it. Your house just collapsed. It looked like it couldn't handle the snow, but there wasn't enough to cause that much damage. Your wife is okay, though. She was opening the door when it happened, and it just fell in on itself, he explained, shocked. I asked him to send me the video when he could. After our conversation, I turned off my phone and continued driving, focused on starting my new life. It's been nearly 3 years since I settled in Colorado and rebuilt my life. I've stayed in touch with a few friends back in Minnesota to keep up with the news, but I avoid contacting family directly to prevent them from inadvertently revealing my location to Alicia. Word eventually reached me that Alicia got what she wanted. She was pregnant with Michael's child. She spread lies, claiming the baby was mine, and that I had abandoned her because I couldn't handle fatherhood. Even my own mother believed her, desperate for a grandchild. I had a friend contact my brother, suggesting a DNA test for the baby. If I was the father, it would match my brother closely. If not, there'd be no match. Alicia agreed, and the results proved I wasn't the father. My mother, enraged by Alicia's deceit, kicked her out. As for Michael, he got a brutal beating from the two men at the resort and spent over a week in the hospital. When he finally returned home, more of his ex-lovers were waiting to confront him. He's since left town, and rumor has it he lost a testicle in the ordeal. His days of playing around are over,